What's up, everyone, and welcome into episode number 492, where it is my honor and privilege to introduce a special guest joining this episode, and that is someone who has a place in Michigan but swims at NC State, Kyle Ponsler. How are you doing, Kyle?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for joining. How's things been going at NC State?
Very good. I actually came off of a pretty big training cycle where I went to Europe, so was training there with some of the Hungarian national teamers. Came back, got a little bit of break, and then we've kind of jumped right into the season. Just started building from late August until now.
So, how do you get that opportunity? Is it about like people that you know? Is it just like, hey, there's an opportunity to go train in Europe? Why not give it a try?
Yeah, I have some pretty good friends who swim out there. David Bethlehem, who was the Olympic bronze medalist in the 10K, is one of my good buddies, and so went out, wanted to see him and just give their training a shot. So it kind of gives me different perspective on what the rest of the world's doing and how they're getting success as well.
How different is that training that they do compared to here in the United States? Because obviously training's different for every place, high school, college, like everyone does it a little bit different. But is it truly that different? Or I don't want to say swimming, but it's swimming,
Yeah, I
swimming.
mean, it's definitely it was a lot different. The volume was a lot higher. It was a little bit lower heart rate across the board. But like I said, like it was just a lot longer. It would be more aerobic, keeping your heart rate in that 130 range, that sort of thing. Instead of, I feel like in the U.S. it's traditionally a little bit more intense, and we're going a little bit shorter. Especially as the sport evolves, you see more of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And which one do you like a little bit more? Do you like the more aerobic, maybe where like the heart rate isn't as high, or do you like kind of like the shorter training that you've been doing?
I think that a good mix of everything is great. I'd say like because my events are longer, obviously, I need more of an aerobic base, so that is typically the training that I am doing. But more of a like a US kind of style, and also like the hours limit for NCAA is like, it's 20 hours that you can get in the weight room and in the pool each week. So it's a little different when you're overseas because there is none of that. So you kind of have a little bit more flexibility in your training.
I'm sure that's nice, not obviously having like the rules, like getting to train as much as you have, because obviously, like you said, when you have those rules like the NCAA, you only have so much time that you really can't go maybe the longer aerobic style practices because you might not be able to have as many practices as you need to have.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we aren't cranking 10 or 11K in most sessions here, so it was interesting to see, and it was really cool to learn because it's like, the Hungarian teams had a lot of success in their distance swimming, and if you look at them as like the size of land is like roughly the size of Indiana. So it's like they've had all that success being the size of one state. So I was really curious because like I want to be a coach that like what are they doing differently and how can like I learn that and kind of incorporate that and just like kind of gain perspective.
Basically, just learning different ways that people train because obviously people train differently. Some people might be, like you said, more aerobic. Some people might be better at certain specific styles. So, kind of trying to evolve all that to your own coaching style eventually once you become a coach.
Yeah, of course.
So, what was it like the first time you did that 10, 11, like thousand km like over there? Was it pretty difficult, or because it's a little bit less heart rate, it wasn't as bad as you thought?
No, it was definitely really difficult. Especially because like my training group was, the Olympic gold medalist and the Olympic bronze medalist, it makes things a little bit harder. You kind of go over there and you're like, yeah, I'm a pretty good swimmer, and then you hop in with them, and they just, day after day was, beating down on me. So it was interesting, and I think my main job for them was just to, like add another personality, and just kind of like because they have such a small group to be able to like have someone who's bringing in energy every day.
Because you're training with like the Olympic gold medalists, the bronze medalists, you talk about how good they are. Did it ever like make you question? You're like, am I truly that great of a swimmer? Kind of going up against
I think
that
every day.
every
There
day.
was one set where my buddy David, we did, I want to say like 8 or 9K before. And I have the set written down, but then our coach was like, "All right, we're gonna put on paddles and do an 800-meter from push. No fins, no buoy. It was just no tech suit, just straight up from a push, 800 meters long course." And he went 7:51. So it was like one of those things where I was just like completely blown away.
Yeah, no, and obviously, like when you're winning gold, when you're winning bronze medalists, you're obviously the best in the world at that point. That's the reason why you're there. But there's also the fact that obviously you're a D1 swimmer, which obviously means that you're a really good swimmer. But like, did you always know? Like, when was it like a point when you realized where, hey, you know what, I'm maybe a little bit different of a swimmer. Maybe I'm really good and can get D1. Was that something that you kind of found out early on, or was that something that maybe you found out a little bit later on in your swimming career?
I don't necessarily know if I ever thought like, I don't remember the exact point where it's like, yeah, I'm going Division 1, right? Like the way that the age groups are set up, like things like that. Like I was always pretty high in my age group, but the difference, physically between a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old who's being recruited is a lot, right? So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I always knew I was good at swimming. I actually like had interest in a lot of other sports, and I think that that kind of helped me because I played basketball growing up through basically high school. I did cross country and things like that. So I think that really helped my development. Also, just like keep my mind off of I need to be an expert in swimming, like that sort of thing. Then kind of the summer before recruiting came around, when schools started emailing my club coach about, hey, like, can we talk about this kid for when recruiting opens up? That's when I kind of knew, like, okay, these are the caliber of schools that I'm going to be looking at.
Okay. No, that makes complete sense. And obviously, you said kind of throughout the process up till kind of like when you can get recruited, you were playing other sports. Was there any other sports that you were really good at considering, or was it truly swimming when you kind of finally got to the end of the day where that's when like recruiting started to pick up?
Yeah, I mean, swimming was always my main focus. Like, I was pretty decent, like ish at cross country. I was like fine. And now I'd like to think probably I was better at basketball than I actually was. But then, you realize how many players actually play. And, I'm a
Yeah.
6'2" guy. Like, it's just, I'm not making the NBA by any means. So it was just kind of like, all right, like now we got to put all of our eggs in one basket. But yeah, no, like I definitely enjoyed other sports. There was never really a pressure to stick with swimming if I didn't like it. But I was what I was best at and I enjoyed it. So there's no reason to go anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely, which is obviously key not to have that pressure. But one thing that people might believe about swimmers is that they don't necessarily like to run. Like, that's the reason why they swim. Is that true? Like, you don't really seem to fit that mold because you did cross country.
I mean, yeah, like now I don't love to run. Like if my coach was like run before we go swim, that would probably be pretty awful. But I do eventually want to get into like triathlons after swimming, so I'm gonna have to run. And it's not something I hated or by any means, but it was just something that I didn't enjoy as much as swimming.
I was just going to say, it really truly seems like swimmers kind of get into triathlons. Do you think you could ever do like an Ironman? I know that's kind of something that's becoming popular. Is that like a goal of you in the future? Is it more of kind of like the triathlon path and the
Yeah.
coaching?
The no, I want to do an Ironman. I don't really know like exactly when I would do it. But it is one of my goals. Like I've talked with our weights coach. I'm like, all right, the second like, I'm done swimming, whenever that may be, like I'm going right into training because I'm already gonna be in shape. Like there's no reason to like waste any time. So whenever that's gonna be, I really want to switch into Ironman. I've done a half on no training with some of my friends during COVID when it shut down. Like our parents made a course and like we just kind of went out one day and did it, and I was sore for about a week after that. But I think for the full, especially because I'm a little older now, I need some training, even if it's just to complete it.
I was just going to say, how do you do a half Ironman, 70 point some odd miles with no training whatsoever? That's insane.
Yeah, I mean. It's just kind of one of those things where you're just doing it with your buddies. We weren't really going for time, and we just completed it. So, yeah.
In my opinion, that's impressive by itself, but obviously, I hope you do get to have the opportunity to complete an Ironman in the future.
Yeah, no, of course, that's one of the goals. I actually just one of my teammates is going to the half Ironman Worlds because they just had Ironman Worlds today or yesterday. I guess it'd be
Okay.
in France, but today. So he's going. He finished swimming last year and is going off to do a half Ironman at Worlds in Spain. So or
Hey,
wherever it is.
hey, maybe you can join them in a year or two.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but you did again mention that you played other sports. Because of that, did you ever like get bored of swimming at any point? Like obviously there's going to probably be times, practices where you don't want to show up, but like that passion always been there or was there ever a time where you're like I don't really know too much about this anymore?
Yeah, I mean, there's always like days where you kind of question everything. I feel like, a good thing that my coach says is that the days are long, but the years are short, that sort of thing. So it's like, yeah, I can have one rough practice, but then, I blink my eyes and I'm a senior in college now. So it goes really quickly. And no, I wouldn't say I was ever really bored with swim. There are times that, like, for a week or 2, yeah, I'd be frustrated, like, "Oh, why isn't this working? Like, why is my coach, doing this, that, and the other?" Um, but no, it was never like a, "I'm done with this, like, I'm gonna quit," sort of thing.
When you were frustrated going through that week or 2 of frustration, what had you keep coming back every single day, though? Like, coming back to the early morning practices, to the late practices, because those are truly, like, the grind days is when you have to go to practice at, like, 5, 6 a.m.
Of course, I think the answer is pretty easy in that it's not really anything that I could do, but also just, like, the team, like, it's all about the team, especially in NCAA. Everything is not about you. It's the team, the greater good of the team. I can go out and win 3 NCAA titles, and the team will not crack the top 10.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, when I committed, the goal was to win a team national title. That was the goal. It was gonna be hard, and would it happen? Will it happen? I don't know, but, I'm like, I wanna graduate with the ability to look back and be like, "Okay, I did everything I could. I was the best leader that I could have been, and I set the team up for success in the future to be able to take that next step." So on those days when you're really in the dumps, you kinda just gotta look around you, and at some points, you even have to, ask people to help pick you up. And that's like, if someone asks me, that's my job for the day is I need to help that person become better so that the team continues moving forward, even if I'm at a standstill.
Exactly, and it's all about having those aspirations, those things to accomplish those goals that you wanna get to, because if you don't have those, then what are you necessarily pushing towards? Obviously, you want team success, but then there's those team success, those goals that they wanna achieve as well that really helps you continue to grow on that part as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, obviously, when you committed to NC State, what was training like prior to college, and just how different was it when you stepped on campus for the first time?
There were definitely some pretty big differences, but there was also a lot of like similarity in the like my club team. We train hard for sure. We were definitely one of the harder training clubs, at least in the state. Um, and I think that they did a really good job just being able to prepare you to have success in college. So when I got to campus, it was a pretty easy transition. Um, Most of the stuff I struggled with really wasn't in the pool or academically. It was more just like the day to day life of, oh crap, now I got to do my dishes, now I got to do laundry, that sort of
Yeah.
thing, and just like stuff that your parents kind of just like take care of for you when you're at home, and just like adjusting to that sort of life. The time management, I think my club set me up like with a really unique and great chance to be successful in college, just because of the way that we kind of ran things. It was similar scheduling wise to a college program. So the transition was pretty easy.
And that's one interesting that I've kind of found out or through conversation with swimmers is a lot of swimmers point out like it's their club team that truly prepares them for college. Why is that? Is, like, club, like, the more, like, I don't wanna say difficult route or kinda the more prepares you for it, and then high school is kinda like the more fun route? Like, how do you kinda, like, balance those 2 things between maybe your high school swim team versus, like, club when you're not in high school season?
Yeah, so the way that well, I guess the correct answer would be it depends by the state, right? Because some states you have okay, you have your club and your high school, and you can't, intermix between the two. Some people's high school teams are not as serious. Some people's clubs teams are more serious, things like that. But the way Indiana does it, at least, is that you're for the most part in my area, your club coach is also your high school coach, and so it's like I go to Fishers High School. I swim for Fishers area. Swimming Tigers is my club, so it's all in the same area, and high school season just kind of mixes in with the club season. Now the kids who don't swim high school at all and have to commute to Fishers for high school, it's a little different because they kind of have to have like their own lanes and things like that. But it's still pretty like intertwined in a streamlined system. So I personally think that that's the way to do things, and that IHSA and Indiana Swimming have done a great job with development and just kind of like making the process a lot easier. Because even at NC State, like talking about high school season with different people, you'll kind of have all sorts of all over the place where their high school was a 2-lane 25-yard pool. Their club was their own long course 10-lane 50-meter. It was just kinda all over the place, and here it's like, at least in Indiana, it's really fortunate that, every kinda high school in my area at least had a 10-lane 50-meter pool, Olympic size, on their high school. So,
Yeah.
it just kinda depends on the state and what they decide to do and divisions and all that sort of stuff.
Which obviously having that helps you not only get closer with your coaches, but also helps you get closer with your teammates. Again, kind of push each other, all that kind of stuff. So I haven't heard of that happening too many places, but that's a pretty cool thing that obviously helps you kind of grow and helps you get pushed throughout the whole year rather than just switching from one high school team or one coach to the other coach.
Yeah, and like I said, like, it also just keeps the training plan in place. Like, it would be hard for like, if I'm coaching someone and, they're only with me for a few months and then they go off for a few months and come back. So it really does set you up for success more. And it's kind of the more logical way to do things. I don't know, I mean, logistically, it might be a little harder to, you know, it's easier said than done to be like, all right, every state out a 10-lane 50-meter pool to your high school. But um, it sets you up for success.
Exactly, and it also helps you, like you said, prepare for college because you're gonna be dealing with the same coaches, almost same teammates, obviously, graduation happens, all that kinda stuff, but you're dealing with, like, the same people for so long that really helps kind of navigate to that point of what it's like being a swimmer.
Yeah, of course.
So, obviously, at NC State, you swim IM. And for anyone that has never swam before, even swimmers, I feel like maybe being an IMer might not necessarily be the most fun for a lot of people, or distance might not be the most fun for people. Can you talk about what it's like being an IM swimmer and just how fun or just how much it can suck at times being that type of swimmer?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks most of the time, except for when you're racing. But yeah, the training actually, I really like the IM training because you kind of get to mix it up all the time. I'm I'm kind of a one trick pony in the way that I'm way better at the 400 IM than I am a lot of my other events. But within that event, there are so many different events. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of got to be a good IMer. You got to have, you know, two good strokes, three decent strokes. To be a great IMer, you have to have three or four elite level strokes, and to be a world class, everything's got to be there. So it's interesting because it kind of gives you a interesting perspective on who like actually is the best all around swimmer. So that's why I love I am. I wish I could be a sprinter, but I was not blessed with those abilities. So I'm grateful that I can at least be versatile.
Hey, at least you're not a distance swimmer swimming like a mile or like the 500.
I do those though. That's the
Oh,
thing.
I did
My
forget that you did
my
that.
second event is the 5 free, At ACCs, I'll swim the mile, but I don't train for it really. It's just kind of like a little easier, at least it has been in the past years, to score on that event at the ACC level. So it made sense if I could, my coach is kind of okay, like, yeah, you can go low 15 minutes. That'll put you kind of in this spot. They get a better idea of our two back is kind of loaded in the conference. So you're kind of gambling a little bit if you choose to swim that, especially if you're not like fully rested or anything.
Yeah. How brutal is swimming the mile?
It's awful, especially because I'm not really the smartest swimmer in that race. I like to get out. I like to. I feel like if I'm not leading the race, I'm never in the race. So, um, I sometimes it comes back to bite me in the butt. But when you're out like 424 at the 500 of and realize when you flip that you have another 1150, it starts to hurt pretty quickly, and you start to really count the laps.
I was just gonna say, like, what are you thinking during the mile? Is it just like just counting down the laps? Are you trying to like think of a song like that, or is it truly like just blank mind? You just continue to go for the next 10, 15 minutes at that point?
Well, when I turn at the 500, it's normally all right. This feels pretty good. I'll get to about the 800, and I'm like, all right, we're 200 to the 1,000, and then we're on our way home. I'll turn at the 1,000, and be like, wow, this is really starting to hurt. And then by the 1,200, it's oh gosh, like what am I gonna do to finish this race? So, um, I don't know. Luckily, I don't have to swim it very much, so I don't have to think. But when I do, it's pretty brutal.
I was just going to say because you probably swim like the three toughest events that anyone would specifically say. Maybe backstroke, maybe that could be in some conversation, like a 200 backstroke, but like the mile, the 500, and 4 a.m. Like I feel like most swimmers would never sign up for that, like ever.
Yeah, it's a rough schedule. Luckily, at NCAA's, I've been able to do the two back. I think long course, the two back definitely has a place at the table for the hardest event, but short course, I'm a little biased. My underwater kicking isn't that great, so I love that event.
Yeah, no, it definitely is obviously a unique event. You definitely do unique events there, but with the IM, obviously you do all four strokes, and you talk about being an elite IMer, you need to have three or four like really great strokes. Like from your best to your worst stroke, what would your order be if you had to admit it?
Probably back free. And then depending on the day, it'll be fly breast, but like at NCAA's, my breast was probably a little better than my fly. And my free was probably my best stroke at that meet. So the top two are definitely free and back, and the bottom two are definitely flying breast, and they kind of interchange.
Okay, yeah, I know that at least at like the Olympic trials, like it seems like there's a lot of people that like disqualify themselves on the breast. So it definitely seems like it's not maybe the most favorite stroke, but it's a very technical stroke.
Yeah, and they've definitely started cracking down more on like the underwater dolphin kicks and utilizing the underwater cameras, which is good. So maybe not necessarily even that it's people's worst strokes, but that they're really cracking down on the cheating and stuff like that.
I was just going to ask like what your thoughts were, but you seem pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that we should use underwater cameras. Like, if the rules are there, then they're there, and I think you got to be able to follow them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with that. But obviously, we've talked about like being an IMer. We've talked a little bit about being a distance swimmer. What's harder in your opinion? Is it the mile or is it the 4 a.m.?
Uh, gosh,
Or does it depend? Because you could say one's
probably the
maybe a
mile.
more
I
okay.
mean, it's probably the mile. Um, just thinking of the times I've swam it, but I think if you go easy in a mile, it's probably easier than going easy in a 4 a.m. because you have fly. But I'd probably the mile. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, or does it kind of depend? Like, is one more maybe mentally more difficult and one's more physically more difficult, or is it kind of both like mentally just that tough for those events?
Um, for me, the 4 a.m. is probably the mentally most difficult just because it is my best event. So your expectations are a lot higher, where it's like when I swim the mile, it's like, well, we don't really know what's gonna happen. I hope he makes it out. We might have to call the lifeguards, but um, yeah, for me, the 4 a.m. is the most difficult, and then mentally, physically, it's the mile.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if I've ever seen a lifeguard had to come out for a college event or at least trials, but maybe you've seen it happen before.
Not yet. So I'm knocking on wood for that.
I was just gonna say you have 1 year left, so let's hope it's makes it
Yeah,
that 1 year, and then you don't ever have to worry about that again.
yeah, exactly.
So you did bring up expectations, and one thing that a lot of people feel about D1 athletes is they think about, like, all, like, the accolades, all the things that you get swimming in front of hundreds or thousands of fans. They think of all, like, the part of it, but being a D1 athlete, there's obviously expectations that is had on you. Can you talk about those expectations and maybe how they not only affect swimming, but, like, how mentally difficult it is? Because, like, you've had a ton of success, so you have expectations, your coach has expectations. If you don't reach those, disappointment or conversations were probably had.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. That's like I think part what makes swimming so hard, but also so like why I'm so grateful for it is just the fact that you can train hours and hours and hours throughout a season, and if you're a sprinter, like all of that is for 18 seconds.
Yeah,
So all of that training, and if you're a tenth off, you can be disappointed in your results. So that's what makes swimming something so special is that you have to be so perfect, and everything kind of has to line up right. But yeah, no, it's definitely challenging having those expectations. But like I said earlier, like the team makes it a lot easier to manage those, right? Like you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for a group of people who have like-minded goals, and if you don't reach them, they're there for you, but they're also there to encourage you to reach those goals.
exactly, and having that encouragement, having those teammates there obviously do help, especially when you're going through maybe, like, a difficult practice or maybe you're not obviously swimming as well as you want to. Like, what kinda happens for those difficult practices? Like, are, like, people, like, talking to each other? Like, just kinda go through maybe, like, what a practice looks like for you guys, especially the ones that you walk in and you look at the board and you're like, okay, this is not necessarily going to be the most fun because I'm sure as someone that swam for a long time, you can probably tell pretty early on if it's going to be a fun or not so fun day.
Yeah, I know for sure. I think that on the days that you kind of get there, and it could depend, right? Like there are days where we won't have enough time to stop and talk. Like that's just the way it is. But you also have difficult practices where it could be high rest, where you're building lactate and things like that. And I think during those practices you get kind of the more encouraging side of things. If you're not, I mean, I'll be honest, like we've got a really competitive environment, and that's something that I love. Is that like if you're not at your best, like someone will call you out for it. And if you're complaining or like your body language isn't good, that sort of thing, like you kind of have to accept that accountability and be better. Like and your teammates will tell you that. But that's something that's a lot different in college swimming because everyone has such high goals.
Yeah, everyone wants to reach those goals. Everyone wants those other teammates to reach those goals as well. It's about having that accountability, and maybe that's something that someone has to like learn throughout the way. But like, it's probably something that you have to learn pretty early on, or it's going to be real rough if you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
So, speaking of rough practices, at NC State, what would your hardest practice or maybe the hardest set you've ever done?
Oh boy. I don't really remember from NC State. I think last year we did a pretty rough one that I was pretty good at, where it was 8 swims. The main set was 8 swims. It was the odds were an 800 on 8 minutes, or maybe on 9 minutes, but go under 8 minutes, and then the short course. This was all short course, and then a 400 IM descend 1 to 4. So each one got faster with the 800 in between, and
Okay.
we were suited up for that. I think I got down to like 351 or something from a push.
Okay. I was just gonna say because It doesn't necessarily have to be at NC I'm sure you probably have a specific set that you're like, never want to do again either.
Yeah, I actually talked about this, I think, on another podcast I did, but I was in club and it was during winter training, and I think it was called like, crazy set or something like that. Because my coach would always put hashtags and then write a hashtag name for the set.
Yeah.
So it was like hashtag crazy set or something, and it was 2050s on 45 from a running dive, or maybe it's 50 from a running dive, 2100s best average, and it was like 5 minutes between each set. Uh, then a mile IM, reverse IM, backwards for time, and then we had to go put our tech suits on and do 5 200s off the block all out for time.
How brutal was the mile IM?
The mile IM really wasn't anything that, that wasn't the concerning part. It was the 5 200s off the block for time. That was really what I was worried about. And looking back on it, I think if I saw that on a practice, I'd be like, oh my goodness. Like, I don't know how I did it, but I think back then it was just like, well, everyone else is doing it. So it's not that bad.
It's probably one of those sets that you look at and you're like, I don't know how I finished it, but it's almost one of those situations as a swimmer, you just kind of continue to go and just somehow you finish it and you just don't know how, but you just did it. And then
Yeah.
obviously once practice is done, then you're pretty happy at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of want to get a little bit back to expectations because obviously your senior year, one more year left, but you won a ACC championship in the 400 IM. You have gone to the Olympic trials where you finished sixth. When you hear those accomplishments, does that motivate you knowing that you can do that, or just does that put a little bit more weight on your shoulders knowing that you've succeeded that so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. Like, you're grateful for obviously like all of the things that, I've obviously accomplished, but I can't get there alone. And so it kind of like brings a little sense of gratitude of like the coaches and the people that have surrounded me, because if I did not have them, then, my family and things like that, like I would not have ever been in that position. It also adds a little bit of a chip to your shoulder because you've been there and kind of done that. I think that your failures kind of add a little bit more of a chip. Like, I didn't win that ACC title last year; I was second. So, things like that obviously motivate you. And yeah, like it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, which is obviously a good thing, kinda like learning from those things, having that experience, knowing you've done that, but then also if you don't do it the next year, like you're saying happened last year, you have that motivation going into this year to get the ACC championship back and then hopefully also perform better at NCAAs, and then if you go to Olympic trials, perform better there as well.
Yeah.
So how cool was it to win an ACC championship as an individual?
It was great. I always say that the team title is better. It's sweeter just because all of your brothers get to enjoy that as well. I came in my freshman year not really knowing the landscape of NCAA. Kind of got a lot better. I wasn't necessarily the highest recruited individual. Like, I think my swim cloud had me at like 60 or 70th in the nation. Um, but I always believed in myself. And, going into ACCs my freshman year, it was like, okay, I really want to win an ACC title right off the bat and be able to, start my career off right. And through prelims, like I had a good swim and everything. And it's one of those things like a great learning experience where in finals I was fifth, but I had a great time. Like, I dropped 2 seconds from my personal best, qualified for NCAAs, all of that. But I still wasn't really satisfied inside because I knew that like being on the podium and winning was the ultimate priority. So coming back that next year was like that was the goal, is to like, yeah, be really grateful and understand that, I had a really successful freshman year, but how do we build off of that to become ACC champions? So winning that was really sweet. I remember touching the wall, and my first thought wasn't really great, like happiness, more so relief that I had done it because I thought I should have been able to do it the year before. But also, I was like, Dang, that wasn't as fast as I thought I was gonna go. So, just like like, that was my first thought. It wasn't really to do anything else. It was like, "Oh, I was 3:41?" Like, that I thought I worked harder than that. So, then when I go to NCAAs and, perform better, it was a lot sweeter, but it's just always, like, being able to continuously, grow and things like that. So yeah, sorry, that was probably a long explanation for that.
No, it was a good explanation. Obviously, like, it's a different type of mindset or a different type of approach. Like, you won it, but you're like, hey, I thought I did better. So it's about continuing to grow, realizing you had a couple years left to go. And obviously, you still have this year to go, but it's all about continuing to improve, like you've talked about. It's just continuing to get better, continuing to reach those goals. But it had to be a great feeling a little bit to obviously be that 60, 70 overall recruit, but then prove it wrong. Like, prove that, hey, I'm one of the best swimmers in my conference. Like, I'm better than where I'm ranked.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's always good. I don't, those the rankings are, they're good, but they're also, I mean, you hear the same stories for other sports too. Like they're not perfect and they don't really define, where you're going to go. It's not about like where you're at. It's about where you're going to go. I know that there was, like Patrick Salmon was ranked, whatever, and now he's a world champion, world record holder. So, and that was this year. So it's always interesting and fun to see stories like that.
And there's also that buy-in as well. Like, there's that belief that you have to have in yourself, that you put in the time, you put in the effort, that you're good enough. Because if you don't have that self-belief in yourself that you can do it, you're never going to accomplish it.
Yeah, of course.
So, obviously, with that self-belief coming off of an ACC championship, you also got to experience the Olympic trials, which for a lot of people, a lot of D1 athletes, that's something that they dream of doing, especially as a swimmer. How cool was it to compete at Olympic trials? And you also got to be in finals as well. So you got to see the packed crowd with everyone there. Obviously, prelims still a lot of people, but finals is quite a bit different than prelims.
Yeah. That was actually like 24 was my second Olympic trials. The first one was in 21, back in Omaha. And that was a really interesting experience because the way that they did it, because of COVID, was split the meet up in two to have less people there. So you kind of had like wave one. And then if you were top two, you could qualify, go to wave two. So I swam wave one, qualified second to go to wave two. So I got the whole like 3 week experience. And I think that that was a great developmental thing for me. Like, one, it put me on the World Junior team or World Cup team, I guess it got switched to. And then being able to see, okay, I performed in finals at the first Olympic trials, which
Yeah.
wasn't real finals, but finals. And then watch people make the Olympic team and be in the real final the next week while I was, kind of bottom of the barrel at that point, go to the world international stage, do all that was critical for the development for 24. And I remember having a conversation with Tony Young, who's the director of Indiana Swimming at the time, or it still is. And it was kind of like, okay, you've achieved this. Now, when you go off to college, your goal is 24. We need to put you in the final. Like, you need to make the final. So, even like right after, it was like, okay, that's the next goal. How do we get there? And, I had a really successful sophomore, like March to June, and we went out to Colorado. I was training really well, probably the best training cycle even now that I've ever done. So I was really confident going into that meet that I was seated, whatever, 17th or something like that. But I knew like my best time was right in the mix for the top 8. If I just had a really good swim, it would be able to do it. And so went in the morning, and it's always something I'm nervous about because I'm just not a very good morning swimmer. Something that I'm still trying to figure out to this day, but got the job done because prelims was a little bit later. Made it into the finals, and I remember sitting in the ready room, and I have Carson Foster in front of me, Chase Kalish, like all of these super, great athletes around me. I had my ACC, Greg Enoch and Tommy Breed from Louisville, who were right next to me. So that was a little comforting knowing that I had guys I was a little familiar with. But I remember that because before finals, they do like a little like light show and drums and things like that. I remember just the ground shaking, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is real, right?" Like, and then you walk out and you don't really see anything because the lights are kind of there, but you like know where you're going, sort of thing. And then you just kind of the lights all turn on and there's 20,000 people around, and it was really neat. Especially because it was hometown for me. Like I'm homegrown, like that was Indianapolis, and all my family was there to watch, and so I was just glad I was able to, make their money's worth of actually making the final to, have them be able to watch that.
Yeah, no, which is awesome, right? Like they get to experience it, you get to experience it. But sitting in that ready room with obviously, like you mentioned, Carson Foster, all those like best swimmers in the United States, are you, like, nervous, like, when you see, like, you kinda I don't wanna say starstruck, but, like, when you see those swimmers like Carson Foster that end up going to the Olympics, end up, I believe, at least getting a
Madeline.
yeah, medaling at the Olympics. Like, is that, like, a little bit of, like, nerves, like, "Hey, I'm going to be competing against these guys," or is it more of just like, "Hey, like, I made it with these guys, like, whatever happens, happens, but it's still cool to be in that same room?"
Right. I mean, like, I remember talking to my coach before I went to the ready room, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, now you've got really nothing to worry about. Like, you made the final. Like, just go out there, have fun, and remember that like this is an experience you probably won't be able to forget the rest of your life." And it definitely isn't. Like, I always swim better at night, so I wasn't really worried about dropping and things like that. Like, I knew that if I just did what I was supposed to and normally did, I would drop time. So yeah, I mean, there was no pressure. Obviously, I was nervous because it was so many people. I was like, just don't get disqualified and you get the medal, like that sort of thing. So, um, there was a little nerves going on, but it wasn't like, oh, I need to make the Olympic team. Like, I was very, very grateful to just be in that position.
And also, it's quite a bit different than the 21 trials that you went through with COVID. Very few people compared to 20 plus thousand in Indianapolis. First time I believe it's ever been at a football stadium. It's going to be back in Indianapolis for the 2028 games, I believe, as well. At least the trials will. Like, I've seen the videos of it and I was watching it. Like, it had to be one, unbelievable to be just sitting there watching it, but it had to be unbelievable competing in the trials, like, there was something that you've never seen before.
Yeah, of course. Now the football stadium was awesome.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and it seems like it's has a lot of hype going around it, it's gonna be back, which is obviously great, but you also after trials, you did get the opportunity to compete at the World University Games for Team USA. How proud of a feeling was it competing for Team USA and having your name and a cap with the USA flag?
Yeah, I mean, that selection process was a little different. So because they didn't really send a US team technically through the USA swimming ranks to Chengdu. But obviously anytime that you're able to represent your country, you take it, with the most respect and pride. So to be able to have that opportunity was really amazing. It's something that, I'll never forget. Didn't race the smartest there, but um just always a great opportunity to have the cap and be able to race for Team USA, whether it be a World Cup, whatever.
Yeah, because like you said, you're getting to represent your country in something that you love to do. You get to compete in international level. You've had opportunities like we talked about at the beginning to train internationally as well. You're getting to live a life and getting opportunities because of the sport you do, which I think is extremely cool and unique, right? Like you're getting to do stuff that most people would dream of getting to do, and you're getting to do it because of the thing you love, which I think is the coolest thing in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It probably never gets old, though. Like, it's stuff that you'll
Yeah,
probably remember for the rest of your life, and hopefully you do get to have more opportunities to do that.
yeah, for sure.
So, like I said at the beginning, you're at your last year at NC State, and your future's kind of undecided at this point. What's some of your goals for this year? And if this is your last year, Would you be alright with how your career ended, like, right now? Like, obviously, you don't know exactly how it's gonna go. Like, you could win an NCAA championship, you could be happy with that, like, that could be it. Like, if you ended swimming today, would you be happy with how everything's went?
Yeah, of course. I've made lifelong friends, lifelong memories, and competed at every sort of level that I would have ever wished to do. So I'm really trying to take this last year and just appreciate my team and the things that we're trying to build. Right, like I mentioned earlier, it's not easy in the NCAA to build a winning culture, and I think we've had a really successful run at that. But yeah, no, haven't really decided what's coming after. Could be racing till LA, could, you know, be stepping into coaching, that sort of thing. So that's kind of up in the air right now. I'm just taking it day by day and seeing, where we're at. But yes, to answer your question, I'd be very, very pleased. And I know that my younger self would look back and be really really happy and yeah, just the goal is to leave the program and be the best leader that I can be.
How hard would it be to step away when you finally make that decision? Because you've been swimming since you're 4 years old. Like, is it, like, almost to the point of, like, it's time, like, you've kinda accepted it's gonna be an opportunity here in the next little while, or is it truly gonna be harder than you think it will be stepping away because you've done it for so long?
Yeah, I think I'll be able to answer that when the day comes that I decide to step away, whether that be now or not now, but whether that be soon in the future or way down the road in the future. We'll just have to see, and I'm sure it'll be hard, but when the time's right, I think I'll know.
And like you said, you're still gonna be involved in the sport, you're still going to be coaching, I'm sure you're still gonna not compete, but I'm sure you're still going to maybe swim, stay involved with your teammates, friends, all that kinda stuff. So it's
Of
not like
course.
you're stepping away completely, it's just the competing aspect will kinda be towards the end.
Yeah, of course.
So, one question before we kind of wrap up here shortly. What has swimming meant to you throughout your career in your life, and why should someone give the sport a try?
It's kinda meant everything. I think swimming sets you up to be a really successful individual, right? Like, you kinda got a little bit of everything, and it's one of the hardest sports to be able to wake up in the morning at 5:30 AM and get up in a freezing cold pool, and that's how you start your day. Like, um, anyone who can swim at a high level or just swim in general, like, is probably a pretty successful person. Like, I think that that's what's really unique about swimming is that also you're able to form relationships with not only just like guys, like we have a combined guys and girls team, so you kind of have many different avenues to just learn different people, see people from all different walks of life. It's given me everything that I could ask for and more. So yeah, and also if you think that you have potential in swimming, I would definitely say just leap in. It's really hard, but it's very rewarding too.
Yeah, because honestly, some of the hardest things you do in life are the most rewarding things that you take away from it.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I did talk to you about ending this way, but there's in a couple interviews what I've done is kind of ended on this thing called fast run. Basically, you choose one or two options. If you want to give it a little bit of an explanation, you absolutely can. But I wanted to end the way because it's, in my opinion, a little bit fun doing that. So just let me know whenever you're ready and we can get started.
All right, let's do it.
Fly or back?
Back.
Missing your race or DQing in a relay?
DQing a relay. No, missing a race.
Missing the wall or your goggles falling off?
Missing a wall.
Never use a swim cap again or never use goggles again?
Oh, a swim cap for sure.
4 IM or the mile?
4M.
Not being able to use fins during a kick set or not being able to use paddles during a set?
Oh gosh. So I'm really good with paddles, but I really suck at kicks. So uh, I'll go without paddles.
Okay. Jam your finger into the wall or whack your hand against the lane line?
Um, Probably whack your hand against slim line.
I'm assuming you've done both.
I really haven't jammed. I think now that I say that, I'm gonna do it like tomorrow. But um, I've whacked my hand across the lane line a lot of times, and I mean it'll sting, and I'll say a few words in my brain, but after that, you're pretty good most of the time.
I was just gonna say, I hope you didn't jinx yourself there.
Yeah, I probably did, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just let me know if you did.
All right,
Hot tub or cold plunge?
hot tub,
Goggle leak or suit rip?
goggle league. You can deal with those.
Swim a world record time or win an Olympic gold medal?
Olympic gold medal,
Get first place but add 2 seconds from your best time, or swim a best time and just miss the podium?
first place,
Live in a 25-yard short course pool or a 50-yard long course pool?
yard, 50 or 25 yard.
Have the speed of Caleb Dressel or the endurance of Katie Ledecky?
The speed of Dressel.
Have to swim a 25 with a bucket all the way full or swim with a rack at the heaviest weight?
Uh, how long do I have to swim with the rack?
What's a good amount?
Like, I'll say swim with the rack.
Okay. An extra day of rest or perfect turns during a race?
Perfect turns would be nice.
Warm ups or cool downs for a meet?
Both, but warm
Do
up.
do you actually do your cool downs after a meet? Do you actually finish?
Yes, but I'm pretty guilty of not doing the 15 100. So my coach tells me to do. A lot of the times I'll do like 12.
That seems brutal to
Yeah,
end.
yeah, it is. It is brutal, but it gets you flushed out. So
I was just gonna say, how long does that take to
like
do typically?
20 minutes.
That's brutal after a meet,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, it is.
Taper or your favorite food after a meet?
Taper,
What would your favorite food after a meet be, though, if it's an option?
ice cream, any sort of ice cream.
I was just gonna say, what's your favorite ice cream, though?
Um, anything with a lot of chocolate, brownie, fudge, that sort of thing.
Nice, good choices. Swimming or any other sport?
Swimming, but basketball is close to my heart.
I know you played basketball, but like, what type of player were you in basketball? Were you more of a shooter, handler, passer?
I played guard. I'm a good shooter, but yeah, shooting I would say for the is the most and facilitating.
Okay. I was just going to say, I know that there's some swim teams that they do play quite a bit of basketball. Do you guys do that at NCC or not really?
Yeah, we do. Probably more than the coaches would like. I think that my team, my sophomore year, had quite a few athletes. I think if we would have played any swim team, we would have won any team.
Where do you rank yourself on the swimmers when it comes to basketball ability? Like, are you like the top
Oh, number
half,
one,
number
number one,
one?
number one.
Love the confidence. That's I've never seen you play, but obviously you played before, so I'm sure that you're pretty good. One last question though. Speedo or board shorts?
Speedo. Yeah.
Okay.
But for
Awesome.
brands arena.
I was just going to say, I know you're a ambassador for Arena, so
Yeah, so arena all the way.
absolutely. But yeah, no, man, I really appreciate you joining. Really hope that you had fun. Wish you the best of luck in these next year, future, hopefully. If not, then wish you the best of luck going forward.
Yeah, thank you, man. It was great.
Absolutely. Yeah. But like I said, good luck. And I always offer any athlete that ever joins us, if you ever want to come back on, you're more than welcome to. No big deal if you don't want to or if it doesn't work, but you're welcome back on if you want. But best of luck here in the future for you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And that is a wrap to episode number 492. Thank you to Kyle for joining and tuning in to the next episode.